welcome to Creative Block. I'm your host, V.
And I'm your host, Sean, aka Lord Spew. We interview people in the creative industries about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We asked people on Twitter and Instagram if they had specific topics they wanted us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
Today, we have with us Wynton Redmond.
Wynton!
Welcome
Hi!
on.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us on a bright and early Saturday morning.
Yes.
We've met on Spider-Verse 2. That was a lot of fun. And you have a career as a storyboard artist and character designer. And before you jumped into animation, I kind of want to ask you your path into landing your first job. How did you think about making that happen, and how did it happen?
First job. Honestly, I didn't know about animation when I got my first animation job. I just got messaged on Instagram one day by someone I was mutuals with. He's like, "Hey, you want to draw Spider-Man?" And I'm just like, "This is probably fake." No. But then I was like, "Oh wait," I got emails like, "Oh, this is not fake. This is like a thing to be a story revisionist." I didn't know about what the revisionist was, or really even about storyboarding. But they gave me a test. I guess I did fine on the test, and then I flew out to LA like the next week and just started being a storyboard revisionist on Marvel's Spider-Man.
That's so crazy. I feel like the internet has really made access to job very different from probably 20 years ago. When you got that DM, what were you doing at the time? Were you a student? Were you working?
So actually, I was in grad school for computer science stuff, and I was also working as doing IT at the school. So I was kind of just in South Carolina doing this, and I drew for fun mostly. I wasn't really this is a thing you can make money doing, because I just was like, oh, let me just draw for fun. I used to sketch a lot, especially on the subway to school and stuff like that. But I was never yeah, animation is a real career people do.
That's funny that you just kind of had that practice on your own. Was it just something where you just oh, I want to get better at drawing, or was it just oh, I just love doing this so much, I'm just going to be doing it all the time? Kind of what was the mindset?
I mean, I did want to improve, but I mean, I just like drawing, honestly. It's pretty fun to me. I didn't really have a preference. I liked, I liked video games a lot, and I used to, when I was doing school for computer science stuff, I would make my own little games for fun. I do all the programming, and then I do all the animation and art. Not the music. I'm not a music person, but I usually ask one of my friends to do music. But it was I kind of became really well-rounded because I just like doing that as my hobby. And that kind of was oh, animation for games means you can animate for anything, really. So.
Oh, were you thinking of going into games?
Yes, I guess I kind of did go into games first a little bit. So before I was in grad school, actually, I'm gonna step back to undergrad. I was doing computer science, and I didn't really draw that much then. I just kind of was doing work, and then I worked for a video game company that made PlayStation themes. This was my first art-ish job, and I drew the icons and the I don't know, animated backgrounds and stuff like that. It was I'm trying to think how to describe it. I don't know if this should be on the podcast, but it was they made PlayStation themes of strip clubs. So
I think that's an interesting thing to have on the podcast.
Yeah,
we definitely don't need to. I mean, listen, this can get as spicy as we want it to.
Okay.
I think that it's interesting to talk about. I mean, everybody comes from a different place doing something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, I used to put these themes together for this video game company, because back in the day, in 2000, 2009, 2010, you could pretty much put anything you want on the PlayStation and Xbox stores, and so I guess people like to buy backgrounds that were screensavers of
Oh.
popular women in industries, and I would be the person to compile those for my job.
Mm.
So that was fun. Yeah, and
It was
then
that the like the weirdest like the weirdest thing that you've ever done that's semi art related?
uh yeah, that's definitely it. That was like my first art job was doing that. My first like real one where I was like, oh, I get a paycheck for making things, and also
One of my weirdest things is there was about a year where I was a professional twerking animator. Like like
What?
like I just got hired to animate like twerking gifs and twerking for music videos, and like people would have me draw up like guides, step-by-step guides on how to
What?
draw someone twerking so that other people at the company could animate it well. And so that's a weird thing. Like you'd
No,
walk
we
by
could have
my
used you. Like that would have been perfect for my job back then. I was like, this lines up well. We could have been coworkers.
there was actually one time where because we had a recording studio in the back of the office, voice talent always used to go through, and one time Tyler the creator walked through and he just saw like I had on one screen a really big butt that I was looking at for reference, and then I was animating someone twerking, and he stopped at my desk and he was like, "Now you're now you're my kind of guy. We're gonna hang out. Like like you're doing my kind of work. You're doing a good job."
Yeah, that's great.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's funny that PlayStation would even, like
Allow that.
or allow that. And that sounds like the Wild West of online stores. Because I feel like now they cleaned up
They
everything,
did
right?
clean up. This used to
Yeah.
be a thing. Microsoft also, like both PlayStation and Xbox, were like, yeah, you could buy these. And then I think Microsoft was like, no, this is not a thing we should be selling on our store. And then PlayStation took a little longer, and then I think they probably said, no, we're going to stick to, you know, video game stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because if you don't decide on saying what you did for them, couldn't you just be like, "Yeah, I worked for PlayStation," and like no one knows, no
No
one
one
knows that
knows.
that's what you did, you know?
I mean, it wasn't for PlayStation. It was
Oh
just
no no no!
for a little company that made things that they put on the store, PlayStation Store. But
Oh yeah. So it was like it was like a
it
small
was a
yeah.
smaller company, but they were cool. I still like them. It's just
Yeah.
video game, video game stuff. And then I worked at a couple startups in like the Bay Area, and
Must
just
be fun.
lots
Yeah.
of computer design things. Not really anything that has to do with drawing anime or Spider-Man.
Yeah. Were you always kind of posting online? Like or did you just when did you kind of like start using the internet to post your art, I guess? Like were you kind of like on DeviantArt or other communities?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was on DeviantArt, but I wasn't like heavy on DeviantArt. Remember in high school, my friends were like, "Wynton, please make a DeviantArt. It's great." I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't use the internet. I'm old.
You just look it up
But
and it's just a furry it's just furry stuff on the front page, and you're like, you know, this isn't
Yeah.
selling me necessarily right off the get go. I mean, maybe it
Mhm.
is. Maybe it is. I don't know. I
It
know
wasn't
plenty of
first.
people who that does sell it. So I don't,
Yeah.
but
It wasn't until I scrolled down I saw Sonic and I'm like, okay, I'm in this.
Yes.
hell yeah.
But
Did you have a Sonic OC? What was their name? Did you
I did
have
not
one?
have a Sonic OC. I already enjoyed too many. I was like, there's so many Sonic characters. I even used to read the comics like too. So I was like, there's so much Sonic stuff. I didn't feel like I needed to contribute anything new when I saw it. It's just too many different characters already.
It's
But
true. The Sonic lore is like super
it's
dense.
really deep.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad they stopped the comics though, because I was like, man, they have such a different universe in the comics than they do like in the games and show. Because it gets so weird and wild. Like people die. So yeah,
I've always wondered why Sonic was such a popular IP, like I mean obviously the designs are great, but now that you're saying that like characters are like having big drama, like dying and stuff. I'm like, oh, the kids love that. They love the intense, like.
Yeah.
Can you pretend that we've never heard of Sonic, and you're selling the idea of Sonic and why it's your favorite thing ever? Can you bring us on the journey about why it excites your heart and leaves your heart pumping?
I almost feel like I should draw it as a picture, but imagine Mickey Mouse. And people love Mickey Mouse, so let's pretend everybody loves Mickey Mouse. But if he was better. If Mickey Mouse replaced those little circles with triangles, because triangles are sharp, that's like 70% of the difference. And you already have like a better character because he's spiky Mickey Mouse. And that's really about it. If you like Mickey Mouse is like the number one dude, I guess. But if he was blue, which is a cooler color than like red, and if he was spiky and fast.
Actually, I do want you to draw it. I want you to kind of like get across that feeling of like why Sonic is so good to you.
Okay.
I would love that.
We'll draw. I guess I'll have to just draw Mickey Mouse first.
Okay. By the way, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, definitely check out the YouTube video to see Wynton in action.
Okay.
This is such a cute Mickey Mouse, honestly. This is a really good design.
This is Mickey Mouse, right?
Did you invent this design?
Yes, totally.
Wow. What a good original design.
I think it's cuter than
This is the only difference. He's spiky. I don't know. I didn't think they did much designing when they made Sonic. They're like, hey, make people love this guy. What if he was better? And that's really all they did. And they changed the eyes. Like Mickey Mouse used to have the like old school, just the black dot eyes, and Sonic evolved from that instead of doing the little eyes inside the circles. So I just thought that was kind of weird. Like, you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Like they're adding like more detail to the eye, so it looks a little bit more like a real eye, I guess.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse did that and Sonic didn't. Instead, they just gave him one big eye, and I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, the mask. I've always thought that was cool though. Like he's like, it's funny because he's like frowning all the time. And I've always thought like frowning was like the cool expression. Like if you want to be cool, you frown, I guess.
I just thought after I was like, oh, so this is like a misinterpretation of Mickey Mouse's hairline. But they are like, no, this is his eyes. So I don't know which one is the right answer, but Sonic's cool. Sonic's great. Sonic Rush is my favorite Sonic game. Everyone should play that one.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy we got a little bit of a chance to just give Sonic a spotlight.
Oh, of course.
Give this underground indie character a little bit of recognition.
I do feel like there's always that thing, right? That kind of like that character or property or like story that makes you excited about drawing as an artist, right? So it's kind of cool that like it's like Sonic for you, and that like, because it is kind of like an action show, right? Yeah. So it kind of sets the tone too for like the kind of stuff. Do you feel like you were drawing as you were like practicing? And I also was going to ask you, like, because you haven't gone to art school, so how did you kind of pursue like the craft of drawing? You know, like I feel like for me, I learned so much in art school because the teachers taught me what were the exercises I needed to do. How did you figure that out for yourself? How did you like get better at drawing?
Learn how to draw.
Yeah.
So I feel like everything that's lined up to here is just mostly weird coincidences that worked out. Like, so when I was in high school, my bus dropped me off at Borders, which is pretty much Barnes & Noble. It's like a bookstore. And so I was like, all right, I'm just stuck here for like a while before I'm like, I should walk home or whatever after school every day. So at first, me and my friends used to like play like this Metal Gear Solid game we made up, sneaking around the store since they had all the aisles, until we got in trouble. I'm like, okay, can't be doing that. I guess I'll look at these things on the shelves, books, I guess. So
what are these?
I started, I was like, oh wait, you can't just run around here like sneaking up on people.
So really, this is a story about how you discovered books.
Yeah.
What books are?
It's like, all right.
Okay.
I guess I'll start opening these, and I read a lot of first I read, like comics and like stuff you'd read if you're just like sitting there. Read a lot of comics, started reading a lot of manga. And then I was like, all right, I guess I'll look at these art books. And so I read tons of like art books and mostly learned how to draw from reading all of those. Then pretty much every day when I was in high school, I was like, all right, reading all these books because I just don't have anything else to do.
I really like
That's
the
what I
idea of somebody saying like referencing a book that they read, and you're like, "Oh, you mean the Metal Gear Solid obstacle course?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so that's pretty much where most of it came from. After that, it was the internet, really, learning from the internet. But I feel like most of my fundamentals, or all of them, were from then, and just reading all these like Loomis books and all those boring looking art anatomy books that no one wants to look at from like the 60s and stuff like that.
That is cool though that they had those books in because I feel like I don't know, sometimes some bookstores they have like the like how to draw manga.
Yeah, I skipped those. I could tell. I was like, you know what? I don't know if I should look at this. I think I'll skip to the boring ones. Yeah.
That's so crazy. That's so cool. And so back to when you got that DM, you're like, okay, this is a prank, and then you're like, this is not a prank. How like how did you feel making the move? Because you're East Coast and you're moving to this like completely different career that you didn't even think you were gonna do. Was it a little scary, or were you just like
Well, before that, I worked on the West Coast before in the Bay Area. I was like at a startup in between college and grad school. So I was like, I've already done this random move for something I've never experienced before. I can do it again.
Yeah.
And then I just stayed with one of my friends who was a technical director at DreamWorks, and he already had a place. So I was like, oh, I'll just stay on his couch until I find an apartment and all that. And so I was used to flying across the country, not knowing anything, and just being there. So it wasn't too bad. I just thought, oh, neat, new adventure. I didn't expect to still be here, though, honestly.
Oh, were you just kind of thinking like, oh, we'll see how long this lasts?
Yeah, really, yeah. I didn't expect it to be like, oh, this is your career. I was like, oh, shit, yes it is.
Do you still feel like that now? Do you feel like maybe you'll switch to something different if something else floats your way, or do you
I feel like I'm in too deep.
Yeah.
I'm in way too deep now.
When was the point when you were like, this is what I'm doing. This is for me.
When I got my second job, because I was worried about that. I was like, once this show ends, what happens? And they're like, oh, that's it, really? And I'm like, oh, dang. People that's how jobs work nowadays. You just work until the season's over, then you're just on the hunt. But no, luckily I got another job after, and I was like, okay, since this is like 2 for 2, I think I can stay here for a little longer until I find another one and keep hopping from boat to boat of employments.
What was your second job?
I was on Big Hero 6, the TV series, and that was pretty fun. I liked that too. It's funny because when I was boarding on shows that were more comedy, I was always the action guy. But when I was boarding on action shows, they'd always be like, all right, you got to do like the comedy dialogue scenes. And I was like, okay, what does this mean? I don't know if I have a specialty at all now.
No, but that's the thing that's great about your work. I remember Spider-Verse 2 seeing you pitch, and I feel like you have that perfect blend of like, you know how everybody references the every frame of painting Jackie Chan? I feel like you do this. Like you are really good at like having really fun, exciting choreography for action, but also your characters are like witty and funny because they slip and fall sometimes and they're like ouch, or whatever. Like you have this really, and your art is also very like kind of like loose but precise at the same time. It's kind of hard to describe. For anyone who's watching the YouTube video, you can see Wynton's drawings and you'll see what I mean. It's like you have that like very precise line. with a nice little like roughness to it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. My favorite movie growing up, I used to really like the Indiana Jones movies as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like I think where a lot of my influence comes from, where it's like it's actually kind of goofy, even though he's trying to be cool, and I'm a big fan of that. So a lot of my boards try to reflect, oh yeah, the main character should never do something cool on purpose is kind of how I approach it. Everyone else can be as cool as they want. The main character's allowed to try to be cool, but I don't think they're allowed to succeed.
I think that's so great. That's such a great philosophy, because I do feel like that makes the like protagonist more endearing when they're still trying and they're not perfect.
When things go wrong with them for them, it also makes it more funny, man. Like if the move, like, and when something goes right for them, it feels better because like they've messed up so many times that like yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Like, I'm glad I'm working on Invincible now, and I was on Spider-Verse, because I was like, these shows are really, like, if you've seen Invincible, he never wins a fight, really. He gets beat up, like, every episode, and it's just, I hope he lives. Not really who you expect him to win, so.
Leaves room to grow, though,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way,
lots of room to grow.
if you were to have to name this Wynton Sonic OC that I'm drawing, what would your name be?
It couldn't just still be Wynton? Oh, actually, I was going to say Wynton the Hedgehog is like a safe bet, but I've always, my middle name's Alex, but no one ever calls me that. Ever. I've never, like, I know people who can go by their middle names. I'm like, that's so cool. I want to go by my middle name, but it just never sticks, because Alex, I guess, is super common. Like, if I tried to go by Alex, I'm going to be like Alex number 3 in any situation. So I'll let him be Alex.
Would it be spelled like Alex, like some sort of like cool way?
Oh, of course. I'm a big fan of Y's where there should be a different vowel.
I love that. That's actually
yeah. Maybe it's like Alex, and we'll keep some of your first names. So maybe it's like Wins or something. Like like I always win.
Oh yeah, the Z has to be really big. Like,
oh, you're right. I'm so dumb. I made it so small. It's. Sorry, I took us down this. This is a very stupid tangent.
You know what's funny is that for a second I thought that when you started a drawing, Sean, I thought it was Wynton drawing, and now I'm like, no.
I haven't drawn anything on the page besides my Mickey Mouse Sonic comparison.
No,
sheet.
I'm impersonating you. I'm channeling your. I'm doing copy jutsu.
And after
also big fan of Naruto.
favorite manga. Do you like manga or anime better, Wynton?
I like both for different reasons. I like the animation in anime, but I feel like a lot of anime, gets a little bit rushed because of the process and all that. So I feel like manga ends up telling stories better most of the time. Like I said, I read a lot of it back when I had nothing to do, since I wasn't allowed to sneak around the bookstore hitting people with books and stuff. So, what is my favorite manga? I like Kaiji a lot. It's like about gambling.
Oh, I've been
had that
meaning to read
recommended
that
to
one
me recently.
Yeah.
Do you always have something on in the background? Like, do you have like stuff playing in the background when you work, or are you like a just silence, or just like music? Or I have a lot of like anime on when I work, like in the background.
Me too, but I feel like I can watch whatever when I work, but it can't be good. If it's actually too good, then I'll start watching it. Yeah. But if it's like, something I can just, this is the right amount of mediocre, I can easily like focus on work.
Sure.
And like turn away.
It's so true. I feel like you need a specific kind of like for me it's the writing. For example, when I love shows like, for example, House MD, because it's like so silly. And I'm like, all right, like, and it's almost like a teleplay. I don't have to like look at any of the images. I can just like listen to them talk. But then when I started watching Buffy, I got so invested. I was just watching the show all the time. I was like, okay, that show is too good. It's distracting.
Game of Thrones was supposed to be my background show like last year, but I actually just started watching and I was like, oh shit, I like this. I'm too into this. I was supposed to just have this on in the background because everyone was telling me it kind of sucks at the end. I'm like, okay.
No, but there's
But I
a
started at the
reason why it
beginning.
was so big. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was great when I started. Too good to watch as a background show, sadly.
What's your do you have a go-to background show?
Mm,
Like one that maybe
yeah.
you've like watched a couple of times?
I feel like I go back to watching like anime I've already seen as the best background show because I do like looking at the art and they have really interesting shots usually.
Mm.
So I watched you know, like Cowboy Bebop in the background is a
Sure.
pretty good staple or something like that where I'm like I know what happens. I don't really need to do that. I just want to see like some really cool cinematography and stuff like that every time I look up. Like a fancy screensaver more than
Yeah,
My
anything.
my my
yeah.
ultimate background show is One Piece because there's so much of it. I
There's so
just won't
much.
have to. I just don't have to change it ever. And I've already seen it. I've already seen, all of it, or all of it that exists currently. So
Mhm.
like I can just put it on from any arc and just like have that play and have
Yeah.
the right amount of ADHD style engage overstimulation to I don't know.
Yeah. Back when I used to work at Radio Shack many years ago, they had a that no one really goes to Radio Shack if you know what it is, the store that just sells like batteries. But they had like, display tablets and I watched a lot of One Piece on the display tablets cuz I'm like no one's here. I'm just here wearing this gray shirt. Maybe someone will come in and ask for like a very specific battery for a garage door opener, but usually you're just kind of standing there. So I'm just watching One Piece and waiting, and that's about it. And that was my part-time job.
One Piece gets shit on a lot, but I'm dude, I love it.
I
I
think it's
like that it looks weird.
great.
I like that it look. The biggest thing that people rag on it about is that it looks weird, and I like that it doesn't look like other anime, and I that's something I like about it.
I can talk about those for so long, but a part of me is also a little sad that a lot of people don't like the art style because I think it's my favorite art style because it is different. And he actually Oda is like the biggest fan of Toriyama, and
Yep.
when you look,
You
a
can
lot of
tell.
his style
I
is very
love
Dragon
Toriyama's
Ball.
art. He's one of my
Yeah.
favorites too. I think he does the action comedy thing also extremely well,
Mm-hmm.
especially in his older stuff.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I love
to
that.
loop this into something that I want to do, Toriyama draws vehicles my favorite out of any I think any artist with so much personality. I'd like to try to take us over to page 2.
Page
Ooh.
I would like to s- uh customize this vehicle with the two of you. And just add whatever you want to it. I just want to trick it out and like add ridiculous things to this thing with you. Um, and if you want to color over the lines, you can use the white pen to get rid of my line, so that there's no line under your drawing. But I just figure, we can all draw on the same drawing for a little bit while we talk.
No, that sounds great. I love customizing cars. I like cars too much. I feel like this was on purpose.
It this
But
this was a targeted ad.
okay,
This was
yeah,
yeah. We've
I
done
guess I never mentioned
surveillance.
that. But yeah, that's my non-art hobby is fixing up '90s cars and driving around in those when they run.
Honestly, it's pretty crazy. I remember you like drove me to like the station one day and I was like, man, this car is cool. Like it was a car you just fixed. And I was just like, cars. I feel like I'm like blind to cars. I see a car and I'm like, I don't even know the difference between brands. But you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really funny. When did you start?
Hmm. Well, the thing that got me into cars was so this is a long time ago. I drove our car like I had this really old like Ford from like '97 and my parents were out of town and I drove it somewhere and I broke like a headlight on it. This is like super long ago. And I was like, "Oh crap. They're going to be so mad if they found out I broke this car." So, while they're still gone, I drive like I find a junkyard, I find all the parts to replace it. I fix
Wow.
it. It was like $20. and no one ever found out except my younger brothers, but they're cool. And after that, I was like, you know what? Working on cars isn't that hard. I think this is a thing I can start doing more of, and that's what really started it. And after
That's
that,
crazy. Like, how did you find the parts in the junkyard? Wait, so how does that work? There's someone that you can talk
you
to
can just
and
go
you're
to a guy and be like, hey, do you have this thing for this car? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then that was pretty much it. It was pretty straightforward. So
that's so
after that,
crazy.
All right, so
That's
I
so
don't know if I'm doing this right, but I'm adding the horsepower on the car.
oh,
Uh,
this is great.
I don't know if that's how they look when you pop open the hood, but I just figured I'd draw some of the horsepowers in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna draw the wheels. I have a friend who has these wheels that I really like. They have like teddy bears inside, and I was like, this is great. I didn't know these were real.
Teddy bears
I
inside. I need
yeah,
to understand. I mean, I know you're drawing
yeah.
it currently. But
Oh my gosh. I can't
whoa.
wait. Okay, that's
yeah,
really cool. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Is there a little face too? There
yeah.
is.
And they look like that, and I'm like, this is it. This is
That's sick.
peak vehicle
I've never
art
seen that
design.
before.
Whoa.
Nothing has topped that for me.
Yeah. Also remember when I was talking to you, I think it was when we were on Spidey, I guess, and you were you were trying to you were trying to pick between two jobs, and one of them was drawing Spider-Man, and the other one was drawing cars, and you're like,
Oh no.
yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
it was a difficult choice because you love both.
Yeah, no. That was the decision all the time. I'm like, which do I like more? But thankfully nowadays I'm kind of more like it's not really about the specific product you're on anymore. I just want to make
Mm.
things that I like. Like it doesn't matter if I'm like, oh, you get to work on, Spider-Man or Initial
Mm.
D or anything. I'm more like, as long as it's good, I think I'll be happy.
Mm.
Versus trying to focus on the brand of what something is.
Do you feel like you ever focused on the brand of
I
something
did.
before?
I
Oh,
did.
really?
Until I worked on those two things, I was like, all right, I did it. My checklist is now done. Now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just here to make things I like.
Are there like any are there like any kind of things you wish to try like in boards or even in positions? Because you've done character design. And so when in your career did that come around, and how fun slash different is it from boards?
So the thing I like about boards is you don't have to do good drawings really. But the thing I
Mm.
don't really like about boards is that you don't really get to do good drawings.
Yeah.
So character
Yeah.
design I do like because I'm like, oh, I can finally like draw a character with like eyes and details and all the
Mhm.
things that you don't really get to do with boards. And so I've done it a couple times and I might go back to it again because I really do like it. It's a different skill I think than boarding, trying to make a design that's appealing.
I agree.
And I'd like to do more.
It's also, I don't know for you how you felt, but when I did a little bit of character design, it was more like concept than like the post board, like the cleaning up super like fine line. But I thought it was really fun to have an assignment that changes like kind of like every day ish, or like just way more than boards. Like boards, you're doing your thing for so long.
That's true.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, I guess?
About how long boards are the same thing?
Yeah, or like, do you have like a preference?
What's up with
or-
boards? They're
Yeah,
they're the same
what?
thing for so long.
Yeah.
I love it.
They are though.
It's true.
I don't know. Do you have a preference, or I don't know?
I actually don't really. I like boarding because I feel the opposite. Like no scene is exactly the same, really. So I do like the variety of stuff you end up drawing in boards. I think that's a nice plus. I feel like characters you do end up just drawing kind of the same poses over and over until you get to the part where you're doing like the special frames for an animation where you have to draw, like redraw over the board the exact pose for the animators and stuff. But other than that, I feel like at least you can do like weird poses and boards that you'll never do in design. And I've
That's
also,
true.
I want to try directing one day. That's one thing I
Mm-hmm.
haven't really been able to do yet. I feel like I'm this close. I'm so close all the time to
Yeah.
directing jobs, and then something weird happens and falls through. So one of my goals is to direct something pretty soon.
Yeah, because you were are you still on Invincible right now?
Mm-hmm.
Doing boards and
Yep. Yep.
you gotta listen to this podcast and promote you.
Yeah. Promote me. If you guys want me to direct something, let me know. That's the dream. Well, a dream. Yeah. If you want to give me money for no reason so I don't have to work, that's like the real dream.
Well, what would you do? I guess you would do. What would you do if you had money so you don't have to work?
I would make a movie.
Ooh.
Animated movie. Yes. I think that's what I'd want to do. I want to make a movie about car stuff and things I like. Just make it a movie.
So if you
with
had
lots-
enough money to not work, you would work more. Is your
Yeah.
is your answer?
Exactly. I would do the same things I'm doing now.
Oh yeah.
But then I would be like, I wouldn't have to worry about paying for rent and food. Well, that sounds great.
Yeah, I approve this dream. Do you have like do you ever like kind of like keep a Word document or something or stuff that like do you idly work on your ideas some like on the side?
Kinda. I feel like I don't have any like really long-term ideas. Most of my ideas are kind of like, all right, let's just do it. It's kind of how things start. Like I'm doing a comic with a friend we've been working on for a little bit, and we have like the script and all that, but I don't feel like we ever had a document developing it. We're just like, let's do it, and then we just work on it when we have time. I think that's most of my things are just like, yeah, just do it. Oh, that's a very detailed gun.
It's a very detailed bullshit gun that I made up everything on. So this gun is not based off of any real gun.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
It looks like
okay.
you can like. There's like a little crank.
Yeah, we got a little crank on it. I'm gonna give it a big old stupid bullseye.
I am fooled by this design, and I believe it is real.
If if you were to work on car stuff, like car illustrations, if you were to work on car things, what kind of car art would you like to do? Do you want to work on car illustrations? Do you want to plan out cars, like draw cars, design cars in films?
Actually, so the thing I know about me, and mostly from like the stuff I've done, is it's not really about drawing or working on things. I like the feeling of like fixing a car and the feeling of finishing a drawing are like the exact same for me. So I wouldn't really. This is a long way to say I don't want to design cars.
No,
I like
it's
them,
all
but I was like, I don't know if I want to design them for animation as much as I'd want to make a project like with them in it for animation.
When I
Like I think that's what I'd want to do.
when I first got out here, in LA, I worked with a couple guys that like introduced me to jobs that I never even knew existed. The fact that people that prop designers will design cars, or that people will specialize in drawing just the cars on shows, and that's their favorite thing in the world to draw. They just draw cars, and they draw really sick cars on shows. My first job, I worked at the desk across from Damon Moran.
Oh, he's great.
Dude, he is a fucking nut. He draws like the stuff he draws are like manuals. It's so precise and crazy, and like he would show me for fun on his off time, he was like taking old plans for like historical planes and rendering them. And I was like, this is a thing that people do and want to do and want to do that for a living. Holy shit. And you can do this and that's what you do. And he drew like all the like cars on like Black Dynamite and like all these like, and it was super sick. And that was the first time that I ever found out that that was even a job.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, but I really like his stuff. And I'm like, if I did do something about cars,
Oh my God.
he's pretty much the person to draw them. He can draw all the cars for it 100%. And I'm just like, I'll stick to, the boarding part of it.
He was my first example of sort of like geeking out and being sort of intimidated by how good somebody was. I remember he gave me a ride home, and when we were when I was getting out of the car, I was like, "Thanks, dude. Like, I appreciate you." And we did one of those like I go for a fist bump and he goes for a handshake, and then we correct, and it's like a different thing again. And I'm like, no, I'll see you. And I like can like run.
Yeah. If you mess up, just go in for the hug. Like if you guys both have it wrong, just hug him. Just pretend you were going for a hug the whole time. And pretend you never even saw his hand.
It's actually my first coworkers working out of this small studio. It's actually unfair that I was at this place in this room with these people. My first job, I was with Damon Moran, LaShawn Thomas, and Chase Connolly, all working in the same office, and I was like, I don't belong here at all. and also I didn't know what job positions were, and so Damon was like, hey, like what do they have you doing on the show? And I was like, I think like it'd be cool if I could direct. And he was, and then he was like, I hope not. he said that. He said that. He was like, I hope you're not directing, because I was like just out of school.
I love all of those guys' art so much too. By the way, but I really liked seeing their stuff way back.
It is not fair that I worked in it, because it didn't make any sense, and I got fired pretty quick. but I was there, and I was working with those guys just for a second.
You could be like, yeah, I met them. I talked to them. That's so crazy.
all those dudes are super, super nice. And very, very, very talented.
They're super good. I love their stuff, like all of it.
So funny. Did you ever have like a moment like that? Went to like in the like being in an office and with like people that you're just like, holy moly, can't believe I'm here.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Spider-Verse was definitely one example. I was like, oh wow, everyone here is super good. Actually, I feel like every show I've been on, I'm like, why is everybody so good at everything here? Yeah, I mean, because you remember, I'm coming from like not really knowing about animation really, so I haven't seen like a lot of this stuff before. I didn't really have other friends who drew at all until I moved out here. So I was like, whoa, everybody's good at drawing here. This is crazy. It's like when you're like in the anime where they finally go to like the magic school or the sports school and you find out, oh, there's a bunch of people who are good at this. You didn't know it was like a thing. So I am impressed very often, all the time here. Like so much good, so many good artists.
Yeah.
Have you had sort of like I know when I was coming up, I had a little bit of a mentor that I worked with, like just someone that took a little bit of extra time with me. Have you had any situations like that where someone was like, "Here, I'm gonna show you the ropes," and you were like, "Oh man, like nice," like
yeah.
You know?
My first directors and people I worked with on Spider-Man, the 2000. It was like a Disney XD cartoon Spider-Man, but yeah, our Dan Duncan and Sol Choi, they were like the first people I worked under, and I'm really glad they took time out to let me know how things worked, because I did not know anything when I started, like at all.
That also makes sense though, because you weren't in animation school, so they
no.
must have known, right?
They knew. They definitely knew, but I'm glad they did not just fire me immediately. I feel like I'm from like the last group of like the generation of people where they actually would teach people how to do their job on the job,
and they expect them to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they definitely taught me a lot, and George Gibson. He was a board artist on the show, but I learned a lot from him too, and Ben Lee. But yeah, there's a lot of people who knew what they were doing and took time to teach me stuff while I was there, and I really appreciate that. Because they could have just fired me, and I'd be back in Georgia making the strip club PlayStation themes. So.
Would you? No, you would have probably like been like, okay, I can aspire to something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would have been doing, but I feel like it wouldn't have been animation.
You know, we have a bunch of questions from patrons and people online, and I think there's a lot of good ones in there. Hopefully we haven't like already talked about everything yet. I think there's like a lot of more stuff that we are gonna get to cover. From our patron Money Bean, what prepares you for boarding action sequences? Was there anything that influenced you growing up that made you lean toward action-based project, or is it all happenstance?
Action. Well, besides Sonic, my other favorite game is Street Fighter. So I was very into, and of course, Jackie Chan movies and stuff like that. I used to rent those on VHS, or not rent, but get them from Blockbuster and Goodwill and stuff back in the day. So I always liked like action comedy kind of things, and I specifically wanted to draw more things like that because that's just what I grew up on watching. So
the follow-up question, which is for character design, are you usually given a loose sketch of what a character will look like, or is it more or less detail that is provided when starting a design?
For me, for the things I've been given, they didn't have any designs when I started on the project I started on. They're just like, this is what we want, and they'd have like a sheet of like, it had like photos. Sometimes they send a lot of photos of actors who they want for the character design, and like notes of like what they're looking for. Like, oh, this guy is like a little bit of Batman, a little bit of, other people and stuff like that. So I don't really get the character already designed on the things I've worked on. They're usually like, just take this and go to town, and then they usually just try to give me revisions and notes until it's more of what they want.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like in your experience, how much context to a character's personality and story were you given?
Usually I'm given the whole story, which is really nice. So, like, you have the script too by the time they start character design. So you can read it all and get what the kind of person they're going to be, which is good because it really, lends to their design. Like, so what kind of shoes they wear, like how much money they have determines like what kind of clothes they wear or what they do. I mostly design people. I've never had to design like animal characters. So a lot of it is just, what they're wearing and their face expression and how their face looks and if they have scars and stuff.
They have scars.
I mean, yeah. I draw a lot of like action kind of things, so that comes up more than you think. I feel like animation, it's always cool to have like the scar that goes like this to show they're like a badass or all that. So scars are used a lot.
If you were to have a scar, like a really cool face scar, if you were to be completely maimed in the face for life and have a cool scar, what would your scar of choice be?
So the dude in Full Metal Alchemist with the X scar, I guess Scar is his name. He has like just this X on his face. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty insane and pretty metal. I'd have to lean towards that.
Dude, there's this vocalist of a metal band who got a scar, like he got scarification on his face to make like a villain scar on his face. And I was like, this is really stupid and really cool.
Yeah, that's definitely metal. I like it. Yeah.
You listen to metal, Wynton, right?
Yeah, I like going to metal concerts, especially before the pandemic a lot. I was like, oh, this is cool. These concerts are really fun and way cheaper than other concerts. So I was like, this is
Dude, if you want, I'll hit you up. I play in a death metal band. I'll bring you to a show if you want.
Oh, hell yeah.
That'd be fun.
Definitely
Fuck yeah.
Sign me up. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the last band I saw in concert before the pandemic ended. Maybe it was Meshuggah. I remember seeing them.
That's just like that. They're so good to just like fucking groove out to. Like it's
Yeah.
just digga 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 digga
Mhm.
digga digga, just like, and you're just like,
Yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
love that.
it's sick.
It wasn't them. I have to remember. I like always try to get a shirt from when I go to a concert, so I'm just gonna have to look through my like closet of all metal band shirts that are all black and just have a different font that I can't read and try to figure out what the last thing I saw was.
Yeah, the band with the guy with the scar is Slaughter to Prevail. It's Alex the Terrible.
Slaughter.
It's a it's a Russian band, but
Oh,
he
cool.
got a crazy villain ass scar tattooed on his face.
Oh wow, you weren't kidding. This is wild.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's very metal. Okay, I'll check them out for sure.
I'm too scared to look it up
No,
now.
yeah, because if you look it up, if you search it 3 times, they show up at your house and scream. So
No! Alex the Terrible?
Alex
Slaughter to
the
prevail.
Terrible.
Alex is just like Wynton's middle name.
Exactly. It's a cool name, but like I said, I'd already be the second coolest Alex just from that alone with a cool scar.
That scar does look really cool on you. I just want
Yeah.
to say.
Oh yeah, that works. See? Thank you.
I drew it. I drew with the kind of like the anime, what's, how would you call this expression? The kind of, not like apathy, but kind of like
Too cool for
The
school.
cool guy expression. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I like it. It's perfect.
From our patron Katie, what do you think you've learned working across all these different productions? Was an essential drawing skill that continued to get you work? Yeah.
I think thinking about your shots is a big part of it. I think, because I mean, drawing good is something that's just extremely like you can just read a book and be like, all right, this is how tall the person's like 7 heads tall and they're this wide, and like drawing things is something you can kind of just learn that way. But learning like what shots to use and when to use them is, I think, something I've only really learned from storyboarding so much, and knowing when to cut close and when to emphasize things and when to pay less attention to something even, and where to move the camera and how much to move it. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I learned that's important and underrated in storyboards, because I also used to do a lot of portfolio reviews for people at I think it was CTN. I would give portfolio reviews, and I was like, I like this a lot, but I also always want to see like some like cinema, like where the camera's somewhere kind of cool and it's like a mirror, someone maybe shedding a tear, like really. I think I'd like to see more of that, and I like appreciate that stuff more.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I feel like it's really it's like an extra layer of thinking to kind of get there, which is really I like that answer a lot. It's really
Because
cool.
there's like getting the scene done, and then there's getting the scene done in the coolest, weirdest possible way, and those are
Exactly.
2 ways. Those are 2 different ways of thinking. For me, that's like the thinking of like if I'm boarding on regular show or something, like we're basically treating the shot like a dollhouse that we're cutting in and out of. We set up a background, we cut in and out a whole bunch of times. But if you're working on something more actiony, you're like, how can I put this camera in the weirdest possible place and have them do like a weird somersault over it so that the foot lands on the camera, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
like how do I do this in a way that I haven't seen a billion times before, and
Yeah, I
that's
have
hard.
the ways of approaching that too, though, because even though you're also looking for the coolest way, you also want it to be readable.
Yeah.
Like those, it's
Yeah.
like the struggle of like how cool should this be, but also this is so cool I can't tell what it is. I feel a little weird about. Like I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of new anime where I've seen like that was the coolest thing I ever saw, but I don't know what happened. Just because everything's the way
Yes.
it's cut and shot is almost
So
unreadable.
fast, so abstract, and like it
Hmm.
almost turns into like abstract art, like where the
Yeah.
cutting is so fast that like this is no longer choreography, it's like a visualizer.
Yeah,
Like
exact. That's exactly it. I'm like, this is cool, but I don't know what that was. Would watch again though.
I do feel like it is true that when you do see like an action sequence or like a it's funny, my boyfriend has been like watching a bunch of like YouTube clips of like kung fu movies recently, and when they're like filmed correctly, you're like, this is cool. And it's not even that fast paced. It's kind of like some of the shots are kind of long just so you can really like appreciate everything that's going on, and like how they use the like environment, like grabbing a fridge or something or a
Yeah,
table, and you're like, whoa.
I love that. I'd like that to be in animation more, but we can't really, most animation you can't pick things up too often because that's, a whole new prop that the designers have to design and track, and it's like, yeah, background stuff being in a 2D fight scene does not happen as often as I want, but I totally get why.
You just have to
Yeah.
become the storyboard artist that all of the prop designers fear.
Yeah, I can become an enemy to everyone in the production and just have characters throw everything in the room when they fight.
I'm not gonna lie, every once in a while I feel like I do that. Like if a project gives a certain amount of freedom, I feel like I usually control myself pretty well, but on one episode I'll do that kind of thing. where it's just like, well, fuck everybody, this is gonna be the coolest thing ever. but everyone's gonna be kind of miserable.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be miserable, but it'll be cool.
I gotta flex once and a while.
I think that's true. I feel like there's moments when like it is nice to be able to flex a little bit or like to have fun. That's how you have fun in the job, right? It's like you challenge yourself, right?
Yeah, it's like not everything you do ever needs to be a portfolio piece, but doing every once in a while is kind of tight.
No, I agree 100%. Every episode I try to have like one section where I'm like, this is like the section where something cool, weird, interesting happens.
Yeah.
And you know that doing a section like that is also harder on you. Like it's also like I'm aware that I'm probably gonna stay up way later doing this, or maybe work extra on the weekends to try to get this done. It's usually not just other people that I'm fucking over when I do that. But yeah, so I have to be careful. You got to choose your battles when you do that stuff. I feel like.
Oh, 100%. I am suffering from that right now, so I get it. I regret it. But hopefully it'll be cool when Invincible comes out in like later this year, maybe. We'll see. People will be like, "Yeah, that's the cool section right there."
Oh,
Cool
nice.
fight.
I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to see your sequence. But I mean, already season 1 was like, they had some great moments as well. So
Oh yeah, it was good. I
Yeah.
like the comic a lot, so it was nice working on it. I'm like, oh yeah, I already know what happens in this whole show.
That's sick.
So it's fun to just draw it and not worry about that.
How often
Oh,
do
yeah.
you reference how they did it in the comic? Like or do you usually do something different?
Pretty often actually. I like doing that because I feel like when people see the real one, they're like, oh yeah, it's like a nice, call out. Like same with Spider-Verse. I try to fit as much like esoteric comic knowledge as I could when I was on my boards. And like people, for example, 2099 Spider-Man has like webs that are like lasers. Wait, that's not. I just made that up. Never mind. That wasn't in the comics. I just did that because I thought it was cool. That was a lie. There was something else about him that was in the comic that's like, oh, this has to be a part of this. But I always like trying to put in Easter eggs.
I love that. Like, I do like, though, like when I was working with you, that you were like, I have like a really good sensibility for like cool things, and you'll just like do them. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you know what I mean. I
Like
feel
in
like
real life or like
in the like just like you said, like shooting lasers and
okay.
stuff, like like having that idea, like, and like I feel like for me, I don't really like I don't think about, I have to like, what's the word, like it doesn't, I have to like tell myself, oh, you should make this cool, like it's not like an instinct, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think...
I follow. I always just think that cool things are just like dumb things that work out. That's like the only difference. Like if you try to do something that you don't really need to do, like for example, like drifting a car is just kind of spinning out. When you just try to drive out of a street and you like crash into a pole, that's just dumb. But if you do it and you go around the pole, that's really cool. That's the only difference is it worked out.
It's a controlled chaos. Like getting good at controlling something that most people can't control or whatever.
Yeah.
I actually really love that you guys gave a definition for cool, because sometimes people will say this is a cool thing. And I'm like, well, I understand, I understand the definition that cool is this thing you pointed out, but now you gave the actual
That's what I think.
Essence. Yeah. I agree. I do agree.
When someone falls, someone flips and falls on the ground, it wasn't cool because they fell. And you're like, oh, that was kind of dumb. But if they land the flip, you're like, that was cool. That was a flip. Nothing's cooler than a flip. That's all you need.
Also, sorry I drew your head getting slashed in half.
I was like, oh no, I died. This is it.
Well, that's what happens. Sometimes you're like, I wish I had a scar, and sometimes you be careful what you wish for.
Or maybe that's how it happened, and then I was put back together in the X shape.
That's what I was gonna say. This is figure 1, and this is figure 2.
Yeah.
This is how you got this. Yeah. I have a. This is a question. This is kind of an interesting question. So it's still from Katie, but what do you think sets you apart from all other applicants when you're applying for a job or when people reach out to you, I guess, for a position?
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty well-rounded. I think that's one thing. I don't know why people hire me. I think that's a question for the people who hire me, honestly. I'm just here to draw stuff and,
Well, maybe a better question is like if you were doing a test or something, if you were putting your best foot forward and trying to get a job, what do you think about trying to show of yourself to get yourself? Maybe that's a proactive answer. Maybe is more helpful.
Okay. Oh yeah. That's better.
Yeah, thank you for rewording that because I was like, I don't know. Definitely. I think the thing is, I try to make something, like we said earlier, something kind of cool, but also kind of, fun. So that's just boarding something that'll either end a action that ends up in being cool or being funny, dumb, just by whether it succeeded or not, and just doing that over and over in a sequence.
That gives you an automatic edge. Not everyone can do funny. It's hard to do funny. And it's hard to do action and fun. It's actually something that's one of my favorite genres of storyboarding is funny action, and it's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah, no one really does it very often. It kind of makes me sad because I would really like these scenes to be more connected, but a lot of it is this is the action part, and then this is where they say the quips. But I would really like more. Maybe it's a writing. We need to do this more in the writing side too, is just merge them.
What's funny is that I heard too that when people pitch action comedies, there was a moment when we could pitch that, and then there was a moment when networks starting to be confused, and they were like, well, is it an action or is it a comedy? And I think there's a little bit of that sometimes where I don't know if it comes from the top or if it comes from marketing or what it is, but there's a little bit of
why not both?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then I feel like the only way originally to sell it was to have it be ultra violent, like a King Star King or a Super Jail, and that's it's sort of action, but it's more cartoony. But it's a focus on this is adult animation where everybody's exploding and there's drugs and sex and stuff. I was working on a super violent personal cartoon, and I had I used to make a rule for myself where someone couldn't die unless it's a joke gag. It has to be funny. So they can't just go around just punching everyone to death and they just blow up. There has to be a joke, or there has to be a catchphrase or something to make myself pump up the humor in the action.
Oh yeah, no, I like that rule a lot. I'll probably try to follow that more too. You only die if it's a joke.
Do you have like little rules like that for yourself, Wynton? Anytime that you board or like think of a sequence or like your own little.
I actually don't think I have many rules I go back to. I don't even really follow the 180 rule sometimes. I know people say that's like a sin. I don't think it's a sin to break the 180 rule at all. I'm going to be honest. I think it's overrated to say that this is what you need. I mean, just as long as the character's, moving, you can kind of break it sometimes and no one really says anything.
Well, sometimes a scene is supposed to be chaotic, and that's the perfect time to break it,
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny? It's funny that you mentioned that because I was watching a Cowboy Bebop episode recently, and they do break the 180 in there, and I was just like, oh. And I think it is true that I've noticed a lot of like directors here like kind of really talk about the 180 as like something that you like like you can never break. But I think there's the other way you can break the 180 is when you I forgot the name of it, but it's like basically when you lead the eye with movement. So if whatever character in your previous shot is moving, let's say from left to right, and then they end up in the right area of the screen and you cut and they're still there, no matter what happens in the space, your audience is not lost.
Exactly.
I break it with either character movement or camera movement. Sometimes I'll have a fluid camera thing go around the character with like an animated background, and then it's like no one is confused when you do that. You're repositioning people, and that's and when it comes down to it, they do that in live action, like they have to, like when a character switches places.
Yep.
So.
And I think it's like my guess. This is the speculative moment, the theory moment. My guess is that there's a lot of talking head shows in animation, and breaking the 180 in a talking head show is very confusing.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
That's true.
It's easier to have really strict rules for a production because everyone's going to just fly off the handle and do whatever they want if you don't have rules. So of course it's easier to give out blanket rules that you need to follow on a production,
True. I think it's a good rule to follow, but I don't think it's as end of the world as I feel like people make it out to be when 100%. It's not followed.
I get you.
Yeah.
I used to get so confused about whenever there were 3 characters talking. I used to get really confused about the 180 degree rule and like draw out a bunch of charts, and I'm like, how does it work? They're all it's a triangle. Like, how do I do it? Is there anything in storyboarding that you find really like the most challenging thing that you try to do? Like for some people it's crazy pans. For some people it's unusual perspective.
I mean, I feel like for me, the thing that challenges me the most when I'm boarding is when I don't agree with what the script says. That's the biggest challenge, when I'm like, this doesn't make sense for the character to do this in this situation. That is probably the hardest hurdle to overcome than any drawing challenge. Is just it's hard to board them doing this because it doesn't make sense or work out.
Oh my god, I agree with this so much. And it's true, it's really hard because this isn't like a drawing skill. This is like how would you say, like psychological skill, I guess. You have to tell yourself this is fine.
You know what's hard too is when you know that once they see it, they are going to change it.
Yeah,
exactly.
At my first job, I actually had the director on my show was one of those guys that like really like sort of mind games a little bit, and he knew that the person above him was guaranteed to always give notes. Like that person always, no matter what, even if it's perfect, is gonna like cut a full scene just to like feel like they participated. So he had me storyboard a fake scene. He was like he was like, we're gonna put a fake scene in this that they're going to cut, and So I'm gonna have you board something that it's guaranteed to get cut. And so that felt weird because I was, yeah, I mean, it's like, I guess I'm getting paid,
Yeah.
but like, this is all gonna get thrown away.
I've heard of multiple, like, I've heard of leadership doing that on other productions as well. Because that's the thing, exactly like you said, when you know, no matter what you turn in is gonna get a random note, you distract them with the bat. And yeah, this is such a weird thing.
The easiest one is just, flip a random, break that 180 rule on purpose. Make it real obvious. Just take one of your scenes and just flip it. And then they're like, hey, you should flip this scene the other way. Like, hey, you're right.
Dude,
wow,
anybody that does that shit just comes across as someone who, like, has read the 48 laws of power. Like they're like they like think about the mind games. They think it's a game to them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's so crazy.
But that's a real thing that I don't think people think about, that storyboard artists have to do. Like, I've done that multiple times where I'm boarding a scene where I'm like, this is definitely going to get cut, but I have to still make it good.
There's also like a very common thing, which is like, like a script is like a page a minute, and let's pretend you're working on a 22-minute show and you get a script that's 35 pages.
It's too much.
10 pages are gonna get cut, but you gotta draw them anyway. And you got to draw these 10 pages. And yeah, I do agree. I don't think it's talked about.
I think one of the things that makes a good director is they will catch that early and pretty early on start pitching ways to change that before the artists get all the way through. And I've also seen that done successfully, where like they're like, I caught this early on, this is gonna cause everyone a lot of hardship, like, let's already pitch a new way to do it in like the thumbnail phase. And if they don't like it, or sometimes they'll say, like, in the thumbnail phase, let's board it the way it is, and I want us to just take a little bit of time to board an alternate, to like, here's a shorter version, and we'll pitch both of them and be like, and I think that in general, even though it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, in the long run, it'll save everybody time.
I've done that sometimes on the show, where like I tell the artist, like, let's just do the like safe version of the scene, just in case everything goes to shit, we can fall back onto that one. And I was like, I'll just thumb out the like riskier, like the more like kind of like creative take on it, and then we'll just work on it together later. But yeah, there's a little bit of like strategy, which sometimes you're kind of like, it's funny because there's a lot of the way you communicate with your artist is also like, I know this is like kind of annoying because we're gonna have to do these two things.
It's like you start with an apology. You're like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. But the reason why I'm asking you is because I trust you.
I'm curious if you ever do this. Sometimes I'll be boarding something and I'll put something in the boards just to make people in the room laugh, even though I know it'll get cut. And and like, sometimes I'll put something in here and there that I'm like, I know this will get cut, but maybe it could lead to something else, or there could be a wild chance that they'll say, fuck it, let's keep that was funny. Do you guys ever do that, where you put something in where you know that it's like, this is kind of balls to the wall and more than likely they're gonna cut this, but like, this made me laugh, or like, this made me like go like, oh, this is really cool, there's no way they're gonna keep this, but this is really cool, I'm gonna put it in, and I know it'll probably get cut. But
I have two examples for that. The most recent one is on Invincible. There's like a meme of his dad going like, think, Mark, and he always has his fingers pointing to his head. I like to draw that all the time. Like, every time he's talking, I like try to put him like doing that pose. And they're like, this is funny, but he can't be doing this all the time. And like, this is a serious scene, or this is sad. Why is he doing this?
He keeps doing the think pose.
Yeah, he's just always like, no, just think every time. So that's one of
funny.
Them. And the other thing was on Spider-Verse. I like to do New York accents when I pitched
Oh,
sometimes
that
that
was
were
so
really
funny.
bad. I have no clue how people sound in New York. I'm not a New Yorker. uh, so I would always do like really bad New York accents for like every minor character when I would pitch boards for it. They were really bad. Everyone just sounded like some type of smoker person, and I would do that a lot. It was probably more embarrassing than funny, but I was having fun.
I thought it was so funny. I felt when you were doing it because you were practicing a lot too. You're like turning to us and you were like, "Is a dog? Dog,
dog.
Dog? Yeah, I don't know.
I hate dog. A dog.
Yeah.
Okay, a double chili cheese dog.
Lines just to say the word dog."
Yeah.
That's so stupid. But
That's so
like
funny.
I like how much I think that people get hung up on thinking about the technique and proving yourself, and they forget that it's a thing that we have fun doing. And it's actually one of the reasons why I really do miss working in an office sometimes, is because I used to be in a room with people that I could be like, "Hey, I just thought of something. Is this funny?" And then
Yeah,
you joke
I
around
agree.
for a second, or
Mhm.
like maybe it's a song I'm pitching, like, and I just like sing, like, "Yo, what do you think of this?" And it's really helpful to have that like instant, like, confirmation, affirmation from somebody who you respect their opinion of, to
Mhm.
go back and forth. And like you're saying, like like practicing, like practicing an accent while you're doing
Yeah.
the pitch. I mean, that's such an awkward part of storyboarding, is you take these like quiet artists that half of them have never performed in their life, and then you're like, okay, now suddenly do a bunch of these voices and try to pitch in a room in front of 15 people on the show. Pitch your ideas, and if you don't pitch it well, we'll probably cut your ideas. So you have to pitch
Yeah,
it good.
you have to pitch it well. I I'm one of those artists. I'm not really gonna say I'm good at pitching. I don't really like it. But what made me start doing it more is I used to play a lot of the Yakuza video games. I still do, and we would just dub over the characters while we play with my friends because I'm like, this is all like subtitled. I'll just guess how this person sounds, and we just like pretty much read it as it goes and make up voices. And I'm like, this is actually kind of
They all
helps
sound like
for
they're from New
work.
York.
Yeah, everybody's from New York. Yes, exactly.
A
I
Yakuza
do
from New York.
Yeah.
I do agree that like because when I moved from France to here, in France we never really have the time to pitch. So it's kind of we do the board. When it's done, you give it to your supervisor and they just kind of like look at it and they just kind of do their notes on it. And when I came here, I kind of had to learn how to pitch, and it's so scary.
It's scary. It's
It's
scary
so
the first
scary
few
the
times,
first time.
especially. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you're like, I don't really know anyone. I don't really know the humor, what the crew, and then the more you do it, the more you realize like you're saying is like just being
Just
goofy
do
and
it.
dumb.
Yeah.
I feel like goofy gets you a long
Yeah.
way in
It,
pitching, like just doing crazy voices, like yeah.
I was just gonna say, the only thing I do wish about pitching is there was a way to put like music in. If I ever have to pitch
Yeah.
again, I'd really like to have like a little, like maybe an iPod or iPhone
I've
playing.
seen that. I've seen people do it.
Yeah.
I've been in the room where they know that an epic speech has to happen, and they'll put on cheesy music while they read it. And you
Yeah.
can you
Oh,
can do it. You can do it. Like no one has any rules for this stuff. Like
true.
in pitches, I've written songs and just played it during the pitch instead of saying it. I like if that's what you like doing, then that's what you like doing. I also think that I'm sure that there's people that if they needed to, they could record and edit themselves saying the lines ahead of time, play that, and then flick through the slideshow as they do it. And like
Ah.
like people who have like stage fright, I think that there's all sorts of
Mm.
ways to do this stuff. We just tell ourselves that there's only one way to do it
Yeah.
because like that's how
That's
the
what everyone
person
does.
before you did it.
I do feel like it's usually good to try to do it live, because sometimes you might be in a room where the showrunner, like the director or anyone, likes to kind of pause and like
Sure.
kind of talk for a little bit. But I do agree that there's different ways. And I have also seen, like you said, Sean, like people, it was on the Craig of the Creek episode where I think it was Tiffany. She had a song that she recorded beforehand, and she brought like a little like Bluetooth speaker and played the song as she was pitching through like a montage or something.
That's awesome.
And it's really awesome because it really works, and you're really like, oh, like I feel it now, you know, because it's true. Sometimes especially for like emotional moments, like these are hard with just like the silence of the room, you know? Yeah.
I will say, I mean, pre-recording it does sound like harder to me because that sounds more like doing scratch, and I can't do scratch. Scratch feels like doing jury duty to me. It's like the jury duty of like animation. Because when they're like, "Oh, it's your turn to do scratch audio," I'm like, "Oh." Man.
But at the same time, so there's like trade-offs with this stuff. Is like if you do an animatic, then you don't have to do as much of a performance because you timed it out ahead of time. And yeah, that's extra work. I mean, most of the reason why you do the live pitch is so you don't have to do that extra work. And that's great. But I also have had times where I make an animatic and I put a little song in and I time out maybe even just one part to play through it because part of the thing that's going to sell it is it being timed to music. And that's also worked well in a room. So,
that's a good idea. Yeah, no, I'm taking notes now too. I'm like, I'm learning.
that that kind of ties into this question a little bit by Kitty Fries. What'd you do if you feel too complacent in your current art level?
Feel too complacent.
Do you ever feel complacent?
I feel like there's always something you can do to improve. My rule was just whatever you feel like you're bad at, just focus on that. Like I was like, oh man, I sure hate drawing hands or something. Then I guess I'm only focusing on drawing hands when I draw now. Or, feeling like you're not thinking of any interesting shots, then you're like, all right, I guess I'm focusing on this. I don't know, just focusing on like the lowest stat you have, and I'm feeling like I'm not improving. Instead of trying to get better overall, I'd say more focus on the thing you hate drawing the most, and that will help.
That's a great tip. Do you want to answer this question by Lee Crete? What's the best Gundam robot and why? Please defend your case.
I have a lot of opinions. I do want to answer this one. I really want to answer this one.
You're getting all riled up right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, finally, I want to talk about anime. Well, the best Gundam is the Turn A Gundam from Turn A because it has a cow in it. That was pretty cool. Like, there's a little cow in the chest. But I really like that series because it's more of a slice of life than a mecha anime, and I kind of want everyone to watch it. This is a Turn A commercial. It's just, late 1800s feeling America, and they just happen to find giant robots underground. But before that, one of the characters wants to be like a baker, someone's like a journalist. It's very, like, chill. And I really like this approach to Gundam than being about space wars the whole time. So Turn A is my favorite.
How would a baker fly a Gundam? I think that's a good pitch for the series.
Exactly. They don't do it very well. That's the answer. Lots of falling in that show. The robots don't fight very well at all.
Do they ever grab the enemy and like flip them over their head like a pizza? Like kind of like they toss them like a pizza?
Yes. That's one of his things. Just throwing them up behind him. That's a moment. So that's probably my favorite Gundam, just for the vibes alone. Also, it's designed by Sid Mead, so that was really cool that they got like an American artist to design the robot. And a lot of people hate it because it has a mustache, and I think more robots need mustaches. So that's my favorite Gundam. No contest.
That actually made me want to watch it. I don't really like mecha shows. I think robots they're kind of boring, but slice of life, baker.
We're gonna lose all our Gundam fans right now.
Oh.
Just if you don't have time, I don't recommend it mostly because it's kind of long though. But if you want to just get the vibe of it, I'd say just try watching the first episode and the last episode, or the last scene of the last episode, and you're like, oh, this is just a cool vibe. It's a really nice experience.
I just wanted to read this one because it's kind of cute from shrimp_fried_life on Instagram said, not a question, just stating this guy fucking rocks. So.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it. It's a good username.
Did you, by Matthias B, did you have a favorite character to design on The Boys?
Oh, hey, Matt. Yeah. Favorite character to design? Honestly, I feel like the characters that I did that came through the first time were not my favorites because I kind of enjoyed doing the revisions after a while on characters. Like, for the boys short, I designed like a family. It was like a whole family, and they were all like superheroes. And they were all pretty fun. The girl, the daughter, was probably the least fun because I never changed the design. So I was like, oh, I just drew this and this is it. And then the mom, I drew her, and she went through a few revisions, but they kind of didn't change too much, so she was fine too. But the dad was harder for me, so I think that was probably the one I enjoyed the most because I got to really try more ideas with him than the other characters.
You like the challenge.
I like the challenge. Yeah, that's what it is. Challenges are good.
That's a good answer. And I think something that's kind of like a question that's fun from our patron Derek Malik Johnson. What's been some of your highlights working in the various projects you've been on, and what are some of the most important things you learned from each project you still carry with you?
There's like a lot of highlights I've learned. I feel like one of the bigger ones is you don't worry about the individual drawings too much when you board. For sure. Even though I do like making good drawings, it's like don't kill yourself making every drawing the best thing ever because they're only on the screen for less than a second, a couple frames at most. So you'll be surprised that we can get away with drawing and it'll play perfectly fine. You can draw pretty much a raisin-shaped scribble as a person.
Unless when you're pitching it and the director tells you to pause right on that drawing.
Yes.
And then the scribble raisin is just on there for like 15 minutes while they're talking and you're just sweating. Just bullets are just pouring down your face.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to this. So take all this with a grain of salt. But yeah, don't focus on the whole like scene, not just the drawing with an asterisk. Keep them like a certain level, but yeah, focus on the whole scene is a big thing. And also, don't kill yourself over work. Like I used to when I first started, I was like, I need to pull all-nighters and do all this and focus really hard on doing this. But now I'm kind of like, you can go to bed. You can take a nap. It's okay. As long as you get done, that's the important part and you're happy with it. Just don't kill yourself.
I think you have like a really healthy work I don't know if it's work-life balance, but like philosophy on work. Because, yeah.
I kind of just draw. I like just do what I like drawing, and I just draw because I like drawing. Like I said, if I magically won the lottery, I'd still want to do this stuff. So I'm just like, draw when you want to draw. Don't draw when you don't want to draw. Very simple sentence, but that's how I approach it.
That's actually a good segue into creative block. Do you ever experience it? Do you ever experience creative block?
For drawing, no, because I'm like, Sonic always exists. If I don't know what to draw, I can always draw Sonic. He's always like the answer if I don't know what to do.
It's like that thing where like all life forms evolve into crabs, like that scientific study where like all these different things that keep evolving into the shape of a crab. For you, it all comes back to Sonic every time.
Yeah. I was like, I like cars. Maybe I like cars because they're fast like Sonic. Honestly, I only like snowboarding because in Sonic 3 he's on a snowboard. Everything I like. Yeah.
Well, so. What about when you're stuck on how to approach a scene? Is there a way, even, I mean, it could be drawing, but it could be outside of drawing. Like, how do you get yourself to work through something and be inspired or think of something funny or cool when nothing's coming.
Oh, when nothing's coming, I think personally, you just got to do the bad ideas. If you do a bad idea, then it'll at least put it on the page. You're like, okay, this is a bad idea, but at least I see it, and now I can tell why it's bad because I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, like at least if you at least try to do something, even if it's garbage, through the scene, it'll give you like an insight of what not to do at the very least. It's kind of how I feel about it or approach it.
That's a healthy way to approach that, I think. I think that's good.
Yeah. Definitely drawn a lot of garbage scenes. So that's a way of saying that.
I agree. I feel like this is like it's so hard. I don't know how easy it is for you to draw like the garbage idea. I feel like the first times that you try, you as like somebody tries to draw the garbage idea, it's really hard because you know it's not going to be good, and you still have to draw it anyway. But then after doing it a lot, then I feel like you trust that process. You're like, I know this process works. And it's really interesting.
I have a really hard time drawing the garbage idea. Like I want to.
Hard. I agree.
It's the same thing for writing scripts with me. I have a hard time writing the shit script. I have a hard time doing the shit boards. Like I think that usually the main way that I combat it is like if I'm not if ideas aren't coming to me on a certain scene, I'll skip ahead a few beats and I'll keep drawing that, and I'll come back just to get the most ground of like what I do know what to do for just down on the page. But dude, I have a hard time drawing the bad idea.
And I think sometimes there's just no way around it, and you have to do it, right? And it's really hard.
It is hard.
It is hard.
But I feel like there's no other answer than just do it and accept that you hate it.
Yeah.
You can just make it look bad just to make you feel better. Just acknowledge how garbage or dumb it's going to look while you're doing it. But still, it's still good to do it. At least you see it and you're like, wow, I sure was right. I hate this.
I feel like the ideas that I put on there that I'm pretty conscious are bad, I usually try to overcompensate with extraneous details. Or like I'll put way too many other little things in it just to try to find any little nugget of something good in there. Like it's the same thing with just like single illustrations with me. I'll like if you ever see a drawing that I did that is just like way too detailed for no reason, it's probably because I wasn't feeling very confident in the drawing, and so I just added a bunch of crazy shit in there, just like I doubled down, you know.
I can't double down. I don't really add a lot of details when I illustrate, mostly because I'm like, you can tell what it is. That's kind of where I stop drawings. Once you tell what it is, that means I'm done. But
yeah, I relate to that. Like it's like I don't know. Do you feel like when you can tell what it is, you get that feeling that you were talking about earlier of like, it is done, you know?
That
like
satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like one of the main comments I used to get on my drawings on like DeviantArt or Instagram are like, this is a great sketch. Can't wait to see it finished. And I'm just like,
nope.
That's it. I wasn't going to touch this again. That's it. I used to get that so many times.
I started putting down at least simple colors on a lot of my drawings just because of that sentiment. Like when a drawing isn't colored, half the time people don't think it's a finished drawing, and I'm like, no, that's where I wanted to stop. Like I didn't want to do that drawing anymore.
Exactly. Like it exists, you see it, you can tell it's Spider-Man. Maybe that means it's done.
Yeah.
Like, if you can squint and tell, I'll call it done.
I like this flattening Sonic that we're doing.
On page 3, we were just kind of flattening Sonic.
Oh, you're on a new page? I do not know.
Whoops.
Oh, I drew you pitching.
Yeah.
These are great. I love this flat Sonic.
Sonic is hard to draw. I saw you draw Sonic earlier, and I was just like, oh, that looks like a character easy enough to draw. And I tried drawing him, and I was like, yeah.
It's just triangle Mickey Mouse.
Flat Sonic is really easy to draw, though.
Oh my gosh.
Is this what it looks like when you pitch and you do the New York accent?
I am not an animated pitching person, though. V can attest to this. I kind of just sit there. I have a very
Wait, so you're just like
monotone style.
standing there and you're like, I'm working here.
Yeah.
Like you just
Yeah,
like standing
exactly.
completely still. And then he says, by the way, I dropped my hot dog.
Yeah,
To be fair,
pretty
for
much it.
people listening, we don't really stand when we pitch anymore. That was more of a thing in the 90s, and now we all like sit down at a computer with a keyboard.
Yeah.
But it is true. Winter has a very, it's not monotone. I don't know how to describe your cadence, but you pitch exactly how you talk, which is really funny. I don't know. I think it's very charming. I don't think a lot of people pull it off because there's a couple people who pitch that way where it's very kind of a dry delivery. I don't know. You make it work. Not a lot of people can make it work.
I
Glad
pantomime
to
it all
hear.
out and I don't even say anything. It's like charades with me when I pitch.
It's a what is it called? The dance, the like no, what do you call the dance to like evoke your feelings?
Dance Dance
Mimes? Oh
Revolution.
no, that's not mimes.
Um interpretative dance.
Oh, okay.
Interpreted.
Oh,
Oh,
I thought
Yeah.
you were talking about Dance Dance Revolution.
No, I was trying to figure
was
out
hoping.
like how
I was-
your style of pitching. I was trying to figure your style of pitching is an interpretative dance.
Yes, yeah, no, I would do interpretive dance. No, I just bring the DDR pads into the room and I do it. I do the dancing right there.
You know who's a good DDR?
Who?
oh, yeah. I used to play a lot of dance video games back in the day, as in not that long ago. There's even like this TikTok that went super viral of me playing this game called Dance Rush. It's kind of embarrassing
Really?
because, yeah. Don't
Wait.
Wait, like someone else was filming it and posted it, or did you post it?
Someone, I don't have a TikTok. Someone else filmed it and posted it. And it
You
just
went viral on TikTok?
Wait, and it came
That's
Yeah, and
back
I'm
to
not
you,
even in it.
like, and
Well, a few people were like, "Hey, is that you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." But
But at least your
Holy
name's
shit.
not linked to it. Nobody
yeah,
knows it's
no one
like,
knows that.
Wait,
I
how did it
am
get back to
super
you,
good at
though?
Dance Rush.
Like one of your
Because
friends
people
sent it to
recognize
you.
me. Yeah, yeah. Like my brother sent it to
Oh
me.
my
A bunch of my
God.
friends sent it. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
That's
But
nuts.
you said it's embarrassing, but you were kind of cool, right?
Oh yeah, you can actually look it up. I don't care. But I just thought it was funny that I'm like, oh shit, someone. Now people know my secret. I'm super good at dance video games.
What did it feel like to become? Because most of the time, as storyboard artists, we hide behind, like our drawings. Like the drawings go out, they go into the shows, and half the time people don't even know that we were on it. but like, what was that like for you? Like blowing up, and it's your actual image. Was that the first time that ever happened? Like it's actually
Yes.
you. Like, what did that feel like?
Uh, it felt not too bad because no one knew who I was. Most of the time, it's like, oh yeah, it's Corey X Kenshin, and I'm like, sure, that's him. This is like a YouTube guy who someone thought I looked
Oh,
like. I'm like, I'll take it.
interesting.
I was
Oh,
like,
that's
okay.
good. You can
I was-
hide behind that.
Yeah, no one knows it's me unless you actually know me. Everyone else is like, oh, some random guy is good at some dance game. And also everyone's like, oh yeah, that's cool. Most of the comments were positive anyway, so I don't really feel bad. I just thought it was kind of fun.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Well, you already achieved fame, so
Yeah, being good at a video game, a dance game, perfect. Don't need animation anymore.
yeah.
Does this person who films these TikToks just stand by this machine every night and film people?
Oh no, we were like part of like a little group that used to go to that one a
okay,
lot. So
okay.
this is on purpose.
Okay,
This is
okay.
all on purpose.
No, I was
Oh,
just
okay.
like, holy shit. Like, is this a thing?
Mhm.
I do wonder sometimes about, I don't know if you guys use TikTok a bunch, but there was like that trend that was basically the filter was you had a second to be in normal time, and then the next second would be slow-mo in black and white. And usually people use that filter to just kind of like, I don't know, show off a haircut or like new clothes or whatever. But a lot of the time, but sometimes they're doing it in public, and accidentally, when the slow-mo happens, just somebody walks right in front of the phone, and they're like eating a big slice of pizza or something, and it's like accidentally creating a thirst trap. And they do post a video, you know. It's kind of like all of a sudden this person that was just walking by, like, is all like slow-mo in black and white, looking really cool, like. And I guess I'm just bringing that up because I'm like, I think it's funny that they go viral when they never intended.
They don't mean to. Yeah, no, I understand. It's weird, but it was all right. It didn't get me any money, so I don't get why people try so hard to go viral online. Because I'm like, this has never benefited my life in any way. The most entertainment it's gotten is sometimes I can talk about it and like, hey, I was on the internet before.
You guys, I'm just like not that good with segues. So I thought that was a really fun conversation, and I have no other idea how to end it, but just saying that we had a lot of fun. And
well, our dance with you is coming to an end. And I think that you got a perfect. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I enjoyed our conversation a lot.
No, thank you guys for having me on. Also, really good Street Fighter 2 announcer voice. I love that. Yeah,
technically the wrong game for, it's not a dancing game, but
I'll take it. I like all of those. It's great.
That was great. And with this perfect outro, Sean, thank you. That's the end of this creative block. Wynton, thanks for being our guest and sharing your story.
No problem.
And thanks to our listeners. Follow us on Twitter at Creative Block, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask our guests. Huge thanks to our editor Clements for editing the podcast, and Malik for helping us produce the show.
If you love our show, then support us on Patreon. Patreon helps us pay for things like Zoom, Google Drive, and our amazing editor Clements and producer Malik. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews as well as bonus episodes. Click the link in the description of this episode. I have been your host, V.
And I've been Sean. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week.
Woo! Bye!